welcome to season 2 of The Dive, and you're welcome. So, obviously, you can see that we're recording from a very different place this season, and that's actually what this episode is about. I am coming to give my testimony essentially, and I have a very special guest here with me who was like there throughout the journey or throughout the testimony. So, he's going to ask me questions. He's going to interview me in order for me to be able to share my testimony. And obviously, the whole thing is about obeying God's voice. So I'll allow him to introduce himself and then we can get started.
I'm Kelvin, Nadia's big brother as well. Also like a lover of God and I do entrepreneurial things as well. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's my big brother. Okay, so yeah, like we can just get started.
All right, cool. So it looks like this is going to be a conversation about your testimony and hearing God's voice and how you eventually got your.
Don't give it away. Don't
All
say
right,
the
sure.
ending.
Then I'm not going to talk about the ending, but I guess to give your audience some context. Who are you? How did life begin for you, and how did your relationship begin with God? Because usually you're interviewing people. I don't know if people know that about you yet, so we can start there.
Okay, so my name is Nadia, and I completed school at, well, I don't know when this will be airing, but I completed school in 2021, so that's like last year, right? And yeah, basically, my work with God has been, like I assume everyone else's work with God, like a bit turbulence and everything. But yeah, so basically when I completed school, I was quite confused. Like, what should I do next? Do I do this? Do I do that? Search for a job? That kind of thing. Like, when you're in school, you feel like you are connected by these four walls. All you have to do is pass and move to the next stage. And I was about ending, and I was like, what next? About.
At that time, did you know God? Did you know God? Were you now developing a relationship, or were you just focused on what am I supposed to do after school?
Okay, so I would say that in university is when so I have been working with God for a while, but this is when I was like beginning to grow with God in a sense that beginning to partner with Him. There's this song by Dancing Or You Can. It's from fellowship to partnership, right? So I believe in the beginning stages, you are fellowshipping with God, you're getting to know Him, intimacy, enjoying His presence. Oh my God, this honeymoon stage, right? But then it gets to a point where you begin to partner with God. So university is the stage where God was preparing me to be an adequate partner for Him. So He was working on things like my relationship with my friends, my roommate, like the people that I love the most, or the people that were hurting me the most, because He wanted me to work on things like forgiveness, things like anger, things like patience, things like giving. So I would say university was like the stage in my life where I was being prepared to partner with God, if it makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So what were some common misconceptions you had about relating with God that you found that were misconceptions in that season when you were getting to know Him better at university?
Misconceptions with God. So I think one misconception about the Christian walk is that is about the Christian faith is just basically the expectation, like almost the drive for most of our pursuits for God has to do with my breakthrough, my this, my that. But then I've come to realize that no breakthrough is your breakthrough. Every breakthrough is God's breakthrough. Like He's opening that door for you so He can use you to do something, or He wants you to meet this person so you can impact this aspect of the purpose that you have. So like everything He gives to you ultimately is for Him. Like there's nothing like my breakthrough, if it makes sense. Like even when Hannah wanted a child, I mean, she kept on praying for the same thing, but it was only when she connected what she wanted to what God wanted, or what will benefit God in a way that is like there was a shift. She was like, if you give me this, I will give him back to you. I think that's one major misconception with God. Like, our breakthrough and Christianity is about living like, I mean, it is, but then with a bigger picture in mind. So if you get lost in, oh, God opened this door for me, then you forget about why is this door open for me? Why am I here at this point in my life? What am I doing with this stage? And you just get lost in like, oh, my breakthrough, God came through for me. Then you are cruising and it's like you've missed it. So I feel like, yeah, that's one misconception that like I learned during that university stage.
Yeah. So still on that university stage, we move on just so the audience can see ways it could connect with you, with regards to the experiences you had. Were there like some particularly hard moments for you, and how did you deal with them while you were relating with God? within that 4 years? Because I mean, I'm sure you had academics and other things going on. You had to balance all that with God. You had friends to maintain. Sure, people would not, like, I'm sure it was like a very chaotic, hectic period of season in your life. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, nothing is. I think not that one is not just like university. Like my whole life, like it's been difficult. Like family stuff, personal stuff. Like so balancing all that like with academics and all that is difficult, especially because your friends don't know what you are going through, and you can't really open up to them about what you are going through because like you feel like they don't understand. The only people you can open up to are the people going through it with you, which is like family and stuff. About so yeah, I believe that in a way for me I always just see like any painful process as like there's purpose in it. So I always keep saying there's purpose in your pain because either way you experience pain, so you might as well get something out of it, right? So yeah, so I mean it was difficult. I remember, but one thing that I know is that it toughened me up because I learned to be there for people even when I was not okay. Because like I was always like trying to be there for my friends and all that, even though we were going through stuff like personally and all that. So yeah, I think that's one difficult thing. But then I learned something from it that there's always purpose in your pain because it trained me, toughened me up, it made me more confident, like a lot of things came out of that season. So yeah, I wouldn't change anything.
All right, makes sense. So post school, I mean, most likely you be using some vocabulary that I want you to explain. I'm sure you use words like testimony, purpose, calling, and seasons, most likely. So, like, what do those words mean to you particularly? So, like something like purpose. How did you find your purpose? And you don't have to answer the questions immediately. You could weave them into answering the question of like how you navigated your post school journey. So, like, to rephrase the question again, your post school journey. I think when you're done, you did NSS, and then you have to create figure out what you do. How did you navigate that? And then like let's also explain the terms you use for people who don't have like a deep understanding of those terms. Yeah.
So like how did I navigate after school?
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say I don't know if anyone has fully figured out what their purpose is because I feel like it's something that you gradually walk into each and every day. So I don't know if someone is out there who has like fully figured out your full. I feel like it's something that like a piece of it is being revealed to us each day depending on your level of growth or where you've reached in your journey. So yeah, so for me, I would say my purpose. I started. I won't say if like at the point where I started to discover my purpose, I didn't know it was my purpose. Let me say it like that. I didn't know. I just felt like, oh, I'm interested in this, that kind of thing. And I kept being put into offices related to that. So I remember when we were in school, this whole visa, the church I was going to, right? They were doing this vetting for executives, and me, I didn't want to be any church like executive or anything like that because I felt like it was for like certain people or something like that, right? And they one of my prayer secretaries told me that they were vetting me for vice president, and I was like, like vice president, you get me? And then I at that moment I had started listening to Sarah Jakes Roberts during that season, and they gave me women's presidents. And when they gave me the women's presidents, I think I operated in it with some anointing that I wouldn't have operated in if I was like any other position, be it ushering head or whatever. I don't think I would have operated in it as much because I feel this one I don't know. I feel like you can't measure your own self, but people were telling me that like you're like they were attaching it as a ministry. Which I didn't see it as a ministry. I saw it as something I was doing because I've been given the work to do, right? But then me myself, I realized there was some passion that I was doing it with, and there's just something about me wanting to see women win in every aspect of their lives, not just like spiritually, but like academically, career wise. Can we pause? My storage is full.
A few moments later.
Is it recording?
2,000 years later.
So I realized I wanted to see women win in every aspect of their lives, not just spiritually, but like career wise, academically, health wise. Like it was a passion, right? So I just didn't know what I was going to use it for. So then I just kept finding myself in such areas and I just like made the most out of it. I got this WIMO mentorship thing from like women in engineering. That was like a whole different thing. But these are all these things that happened during the NSS period. So to answer your question about purpose, I think it's something that like you don't just like like a light bulb. This is my purpose. I think it's something. It's a whole journey on its own. And if we should go into that, it will be like a whole different episode. But yeah, and I also had a passion for what I was doing, which was engineering as well. So when I completed school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. Honestly speaking, I didn't know whether I didn't even know what kind of NSS I wanted to do, whether I should be a TA, whether I should work, whether, that whole kind of thing, right? Everybody will say, pray about it and all that. So for me, choosing to work instead of being a TA, that one it was like, daddy said I should, so that one I just had to. So yeah, but then during that period, I was very confused because I had gotten to the stage where I was like, um, I was growing, so I cannot be relying on daddy said do this, mommy said do that. Like you get me, I had to make my own choices. Everyone is detaching from me because I'm growing, so I'm responsible for my own life, right? So now I'm like, okay, this decision, no one is going to make it for me. What do I want to do? Do I want to work? Da 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 da. So I started the national service and everything. I mean, it was good, but I think it was some way because I wasn't really really enjoying what I was doing, and I was like, so if I'm going to work, if I'm going, cause even though I wasn't really, really enjoying it, I was applying my heart to it. So I got retained. I believe anything you're doing, you should just do it with your all. Do it as if you're doing it for God. So I was like, but if I'm going to be working here, is this really what I want to do? But then I also feel like I wanted to also apply for masters to get my masters abroad, right? So it's something I was praying about, right? And that thing like you just go like, oh, let your will be done, let your will be done. But I was like, okay, but then I feel like this is also a desire in me. So even though I'm saying God, let your will be done, I think this is also what I want. So I also started praying towards it, like, oh God, but let your will be done. But then I was praying towards, I was working towards it, I was applying for schools and all that, and yeah, I think my desire, I feel like the fact that the desire was in me, because God orders the steps of the righteous. So I feel like the fact that the desire was in me meant that it was God's will. And if it didn't happen, it's not God's will, that's fine. So yeah, so that was what led me to start applying for schools. Have I answered the question?
Yeah, I think so. So I mean, you can talk about, so you did your NSS, you started applying for schools, and then what happened?
Yeah, so then I started applying for schools, and what happened was that I was getting admission to schools, but I was not getting funding. I was getting and deadlines. I mean, all deadlines were approaching, like deadlines for deferral. So they'll be like either you accept the offer or you defer to next year, else you lose the offer totally. So I was getting admission. I wasn't getting funding, and I'm like who is going to fund this? Like I can't like at this age I cannot put burdens on people again. So I was like, if I don't get funding, I'm not going. I'll just stay here because I said I'm not going to force it to happen. So if it's God's will, it will happen, right? So I was applying. I wasn't getting funding. Deadlines were approaching. I kept deferring. And I mean, people were telling me that like I should have a backup plan, a plan B, and I'm like, no, I'm doing this with faith. Either it happens or it doesn't happen. But I'm not going to like try and orchestrate my own way of making it happen like you got. So yeah, I got there's a school Georgia Tech. The one professor reached back to me that he wants to work with me and everything. But he kept tossing me about, and Georgia Tech was the only school I hadn't yet deferred. I had deferred all the schools I had, but Georgia Tech was the only school I had not yet deferred because the deadline was further away. So I kept emailing him. He was like, oh, work on this for me. So I thought funding will come. Then he reached the point he stopped contacting me at all. And this was like when the semester was about to start. So he stopped contacting me at all. And I was like, okay, so I have to defer Georgia Tech as well. So I deferred Georgia Tech. And the funny thing is that during this whole season of will it happen, will it not happen, all deadlines had left and everything, I on Instagram, there's this organization called Women in Engineering Mentorship Organization. I was DMing them to see if there are any scholarship opportunities, right? But when they looked at my CV and my qualifications, they emailed me saying they want to recruit me into the organization because they feel like I could be an asset. And this is related to both engineering and both women elevation, which are two things I was already passionate about. So I was like, okay. So during this journey, even though I was not getting what I was seeking for, I was getting other things on the side, even though those were not like my main focus. So aside from this remote thing, I also got introduced to this other like I met, let me just say, I met a lot of influential people in pursuit of this journey, which was not even the focus in the first place, right? And another thing that was happening is no one people say pray about it, pray about it, pray about it. You're expecting God to tell you things like, okay, apply to this school, oh, apply at this time, oh, speak to this person. But for my journey, anytime I pray about it, I was hearing of things like check up on this person, give this to this person, take this amount of money and give it to the, like totally unrelated to what I was praying for, right? But then it was doing other things. It was one, deepening my sensitivity to God's voice. Two, all the things he was telling me to do, they had to do with honor, give like learning how to honor people. It had to do with giving. Like I was learning other things which were not my main focus. Like they were so not my prayer points. Like I didn't even pray for them. But then during the journey, I acquired all those skills. Like I said, God was preparing me to be his partner after fellowshipping with him, right? So during this journey, all the things that I was praying for, I was not getting, but I was being equipped with other things on the side. I was meeting new people, influential people through all these things. And finally, when I came to terms with it, like, okay, I'm not going to school this year. Because I've deferred all my schools, obviously. So let me focus on like getting work to do, right? And our mom was like, why have I stopped? Like, why have I focused on just Georgia Tech? And I told her, oh, Georgia Tech is the only school that they're deferral. Why?
No,
It's the only school that like their deferral date is not close. And that's why she was like, oh, just because all their schools deadlines have passed doesn't mean you can't still email them. So I said, okay, let me just email some schools. And this school that I'm in, I emailed one professor and then he told me that honestly, he wants to be honest with me, there's no way I'm going to get funding. If I want to get funding, I should do a master's in my home country and then come and do a PhD here. But he's being honest with me, I'm not going to get funding. So at that point, I'm like, obviously, your Vim will die. So I had prepared the next email I was going to send to the next person, but I didn't send it. And then, like, I think on a Monday, I was, on a Monday, I was like, I saw the drafted email. I was like, let me just press send. So I pressed send. And I forgot about it. But then the person I sent it to apparently is the director of like the transportation institution, da 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 da. So I sent it to him and then he responded and he said he doesn't have funding, but looking at my, my stuff, he feels like I'm a very bright person and he'll see what he can do. But I didn't really think too much of it because at this point, a lot of people had done that and then they had like disappointed. So I was like, okay, I'll check back on him like next Thursday. Yeah, so he got back to me and then he was like, he has seen that I have deferred my application to next year and that if he's able to get me to funding to come this year, can I come? And I was like, oh yeah, I can come. So far as there's funding there, immediate. I can't even come tomorrow, be back. So I was there and I think on a Thursday or something, I went for midweek. Then after, usually when I go to church, I put off my internet. So after church, when we're done everything, and I put on my internet and I saw congratulations, da 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 da. I had gotten full funding, full stipend, da da da, like everything, like check, 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 check. And that was like last minute, all deadlines had passed, school was about to reopen, da 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 da. And that was just like mind blowing. And I feel like it happened right as when I had learned all that God wanted me to learn for that season. I feel like if I had prolonged to learn or to obey all the things he was telling me to do, like give this to this person, check up on. If I had hesitated, I think he would have delayed the thing coming and waited till I had learned it, because I think it was something that I would need for this season. Yeah, so that's how all that happened.
All right, cool. That sounds really, really cool. So just to recap, basically you were in school, you were beginning to discover your purpose, you were like reaching out to more women, you were being promoted in women-like organizations, and at the intersection of engineering, you finished school, did your NSS, and within that season, you were kind of like still going through your discovery process. You did some school applications, and one finally came through, by God's grace. So there's some questions to help like listeners, right? So if you had to like, pick like 3 important lessons or highlights from your journey that you could share for someone going through something similar, like they just finished school, they're about to go through NSS, like what would your advice be? Like both from like a wisdom standpoint and a spiritual standpoint.
Okay, so I would say, so during this period, I was, so one is what I'll say is me, I was really praying and fasting into this thing, but it's not, so this is what I'll say. You need to be sensitive to God's voice. Otherwise, you'll be doing everything right and still have it wrong. You get it? Because like you are deviating, right? So I would say in the beginning, I was praying and fasting for the wrong reason. So I was thinking I was praying and fasting because the longer you pray and the longer you fast, the faster God will answer your prayers, right? But it was rather the more I pray and the more I fast, the more sensitive I was to his voice. Do you get it? So fasting builds your spiritual,
Proclivities.
pardon?
Sensitivities.
Yeah, your spiritual sensitivity or your spiritual level or something, right? It doesn't really move the hand of God like that. You get it?
Yeah.
So that I would say don't forsake the fasting and prayers and all those things, right? But like understand it, like understand,
Check on this one.
like but like understand it, understand why you are doing it and everything. So for me, I would say all those fasting and prayers and everything rather made me more sensitive to God's voice and helped me to be able to obey his voice, right? Because sometimes the 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 assignment doesn't look like the purpose. Like what you've been asked to do right now. Let's say you are supposed to be like a business person and they ask you to go and sweep the storeroom. Like it's so it doesn't correlate, right? So if you're not really sensitive, you will not do it, and that's still disobedience. You get it? And like it's still disobedience, even though you didn't know. Like you get it. So yeah. So I'll say yes, do pray, do fast and everything, but like don't be self-righteous and think it's the praying and fasting that's going to bring whatever it is that you are seeking for. Obviously it will, but like do it with understanding. That's what I'll say, yes. And then secondly too, I'll say don't be lazy. In as much as you are praying, you are fasting, you are being sensitive to God's voice, research. Like research the kind of school, like what you are, the course you are going to do, the kind of schools that offer funding for that course, check their school fees, what kind of projects they're undertaking, research into the professors, the kind of things that they are currently, the kind of projects they are currently on and all that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. So yeah, basically I'll say yes. Apply wisdom and understanding, pray into it fast and everything, but then also do your part and like do the research and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned something. You spoke about like I thought it was like really interesting. Tools people could potentially use. But you mentioned like being sensitive to God's voice. Like what does that mean tangibly for a lot of people? It's like they don't necessarily know how to navigate that, right? So does that mean like you hear his voice audibly when you read the Bible, you see what's going on? Does that mean dreams? Like what exactly like decode like sensitivity to God's voice?
Yes. I don't think that is a one size fits all kind of thing. I don't think I can sit here and say this is what says this is God's voice looks like. I think it is different from everybody, but I can say mine and you can like discover yours, right? So for me, sensitivity to God's voice, first of all, it's peace. If I'm making a decision and there's no peace in it, or there's like, shouldn't I? Like, there's so many questions around that decision. It doesn't mean that decision is not God's will, but it just means I should pause and take a look at it or pause and pray more about it. So for me, the absence of peace and the presence of peace is one way that I hear from God. I also hear from God through dreams. I dream a lot. And then also reading the word and from people as well. But for me, people is always my last resort because I feel like the best person who can tell yourself what someone said is you. Because if I give you information right now, by the time that information passes through so many people to Ghana, it's a different kind of information that is reaching Ghana. So the best one is the first contact of communication, which is me to you, than from someone to Ghana to come and tell you something I said. It will distort one way or another. Well, so yeah. So me, I would say it looks different for everybody. So you should spend more. That's why it's a fellowship to partnership. You should actually spend more time with God because if you are in a crowd with like a million people and you mention my name, I'll know it's you that mentioned my name because I've spent like 23 years with you. I know your voice. Even if you are in like a billion people where you mention my name, I know that you are the one calling me. So I think that's it. It's fellowship to partnership. So if you want to get to the point where you are in partnership with God and when He talks and gives you instruction, you can actually carry out for your business to be successful. You should pass that fellowship stage, get intimate with Him, know His voice, like for yourself. Yeah, that's what I'll say.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I think we coming almost to the end of the show. But before we do that, is there anything in particular you want to talk about before I ask the last question?
Yeah, so the testimony actually didn't end with me getting the school.
Okay.
The test it was because it was last minute. It came like at a point where everything was about to start. When it came, I didn't have a visa. I didn't even have a passport.
Okay.
I didn't have a Ghana. I had to renew my passport. I didn't have my I-20. All that that was like a whole year's process for someone, and I had to do it in like 2 weeks. So I kept asking people, and they were like, and apparently since COVID, getting a visa to the US has become like a hassle and all that. So I was asking people about the process. They're like, this one year, unless 6 months to a year. Some people told me they've been trying for 2 years, and I told God that God, you had a whole year. You decided to bring it at this time. So you should make it open, like finish it at this time at your pace because you brought it at this time. But so I had like a very short time to get my passport, get my visa, get my I-20. I applied for everything. So apparently the I-20 is supposed to take like a week or so. Mine came in less than 24 hours. I got my passport, the visa too. There's this WhatsApp group where everyone is trying to, it's like because there are no dates, it's like when like a slot comes open, when a slot opens up, then someone will say in the WhatsApp group that like, hey, there's a slot, and everybody will go and try and log in. Me, every time I go and try and log in, the slot is gone because the slot comes like one by one, you got. So I was like, God, if it's about being fastest fingers, I'll not get the same way you made this thing come and you made it come at this time. That same grace, you get me? So I was like, so I think it was a Friday or something. I said, if I don't get a date, the day will not end. And I told mommy, I told mommy, don't worry. If I don't get a date, this day will not end. The sun will be up forever. So I was there and then someone put in the WhatsApp group that a slot had opened up. When I logged in, over 50 slots were open on different days, and they were like, it had never happened before because it's always like one slot, the fastest person to get it, that kind of thing. But when I logged in, over 50, and I was telling them that I'm the reason why all of you have been able to get dates for your visa appointment, because if not for me, you still be doing fastest fingers because it hadn't happened before. Like over 50 slots, different days, and it was open. Usually it's open like once, like 1 minute, like that. It was open for like over 10 minutes. Everybody was able to log in, book their appointment, everything. And after that, it didn't happen again for a long time. And I was like, it's God's grace and favor, Iba.
Yeah.
So I got my I-20 in less than 24 hours. I got my passport. I got my visa in less than 2 days. Then I did my appointment. All this happened in 1 week, and the following week I traveled. So everything just happened like quick. Even though the year was so long and so slow, because I was
It happened this year, right?
yeah, sorry. Everything it happened this year. I mean, yeah. Even though the year was so long and so slow, when it started, it just like everything was just pop, 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 pop. Yeah. So that was another aspect of the testimony.
Yeah, sounds good. It really sounds exciting for you. We're really looking forward to seeing what you do next. Before we talk about things you might potentially be working on next, given your purpose and your passions and your dreams, do you have any like golden tips and nuggets for like women out there, since you have like such a passion and a call for all of them?
For me, I'll say work on your character.
Okay.
Because I would say that before most of so this whole purpose thing is mostly like God working on you, honestly. And I would say that before God will give you a platform to handle his sheep, because his sheep are precious to him. He won't just give it to anyone, right? So I would say the faster you work on yourself, the faster you get to your breakthrough or God's breakthrough. Because I feel like God will never give you something you're not ready for. Yeah. And we always want something, we always want the next big thing. But then for us to be able to handle the next big thing, we need to make sure we've developed to the next big thing. So I would say if you really want speed, like supernatural speed, you should really continuously be working on yourself. That's the only way you have like supernatural speed in the spirit, yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah, I think we've come to the end of it. Would you want to talk about potential things you're working on? This podcast being one of them. Do you have social media handles, ways people can reach you, what you're available for, all that kind of stuff?
Yes. So you guys should check out Zion Restoration. It's a blog. I'm sure most of you know it already, but yeah, it's like a more fiery version of the podcast. Yeah, so I still talk about depression and stuff, but like from a biblical point of view, I feel like everything that is happening, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that is happening now, everything that we are going through as people, not just as women, has happened before. Even with insecurities, I talk about insecurities in the blog. I believe that there are people in the Bible who went through insecurities, just that maybe we read it from like an audacious point of view, so we don't see these things, even with relationships, like everything that we are going through now. I believe people in the Bible went through it. So yeah, in Zion Restoration, I tackle our life issues from like biblical points of view, so from the people in the Bible. I talk about pain to purpose, all those things. And then also, yeah, this podcast too, just trying to create like a community where we can have like a safe space to talk about all these different topics that the youth go through. And yeah, hopefully, I mean, I have something else I'm working on, but like, I don't want to say it now because let's see. Yeah.
Nice. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my sister and your host for The Dive. For other episodes, this was one time where I had the privilege to host her as well. My name is Kelvin and you are listening to The Dive. All right, cool.
Yeah.